Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another weekend edition of the PondCast, so your weekly broadcast, your weekly talk show here of all things StarCraft. Podcast number 57. I'm of course just VIP. With me, I'm joined by our lovely producer Kuro, and of course by everyone in the chat as well. Welcome, one and all, to our weekly talk show, our weekly roundup show, even of all things StarCraft, all things adjacent to StarCraft, as well as this week was a little bit lighter. Of course, last week was intense. Last week there was so much to go over when it came to EWC, when it came to all things surrounding Esports World Cup and Fusion Esports League as well. But here we have slowed things down a little bit. So this is the beginning of what? The beginning of the off-season. The off-season of StarCraft 2. Again, we spoke about this previously about Esports World Cup, about how, hey, there's still chances, of course, there's still opportunities of maybe StarCraft returning next year for the EWC, but there is no circuit. There is no official circuit for the Esports World Cup, not anymore, so this marks the beginning here of slowing things down, and this is where all these other tournaments have to step up instead. All these other tournament organizers, I should say, to provide events, to provide competition for the players. We'll get into it. First things first, though, big shout out to, speaking of tournament organizers, to Exalted and those working behind the scenes on Star Zagora. Bellingen's Elite Star Zagora, of course, did wrap up quite some time ago, but they did recently release an after movie. Basically, this was a compilation here of highlight moments of matches, of out-of-game moments as well, of the stage, of the area. A really nice wrap-up and, yeah, again, after movie, kind of like wrap-up video here of the event itself. Again, showing that those working on this event, they're still promoting it, they're still pushing content about it, releasing, of course, all the interviews on their YouTube channel, not just the games themselves, but all the interviews, all the out-of-game content, and of course the after movie as well. So again, I really do appreciate, or we appreciate, how much work and effort has been put into the event, how much they're pushing and promoting it, and again, it's this kind of care and effort that isn't always put into these tournaments. Even something bigger like EWC doesn't necessarily have as much care, as much like kind of delicacy when it comes to dealing and handling their event and showing all this off and revealing and showcasing all this to the public as well. So really cool to see, and again, much love to Exalted and all those at Bellingen Star Zagora. I do recommend it. It's again 6 minutes long, so not too long here, and a really nice kind of highlight reel of the event itself if you missed out. If you didn't get to watch it live or via VODs, I do recommend checking out the event on the YouTube channel and catching up on those VODs, catching up on those games. As again, there's just so much content on the YouTube in regards to the games themselves, interviews, and of course these trailers and kind of edited compilations as well. So there we go. And of course, we look forward to the next Bellingens, the next Star Zagora in 2026. We do look forward to it. So shout out to Exalted, as that does send us over here to our next big event, which, hey, we just mentioned, the EWC, the Esports World Cup. Shout out to Ahmed, shout out to the SE Historian, as of course he did go to the event itself. We actually covered some of his interviews last week with Cyril. Here he did publish some new interviews with Classic and with Clem as well. Again, these were some briefer, shorter interviews. They couldn't delve into too much, especially because the players didn't really have the most amount of time available to them and allotted to them. But shout out to Classic for stepping in, and I'm not too sure who translated for the SE Historian. I'm assuming Maddox, but
yeah,
maybe
I think
another.
He confirmed later that it was Maddox.
There you go. So shout out to Maddox for, of course, translating for the event, or translating for the interview as well. This was an interview that was conducted right after the finale, right after the tournament concluded, after Classic's loss. I've been very vocal about how unfortunate it is whenever there is a kind of like a loser's interview or an interview after said event. The players, of course, are typically very devastated and not in the best mindset for these kind of interviews. So shout out to Classic for agreeing for the interview as well, and again, shout out to the SE Historian for being very tactful when it came to his approach. Of course, the initial interview was just asking Classic how he felt coming into it, how he felt coming into the event itself. He spoke about how he felt like he was informed to maybe be the champion, but he felt really like he hit a wall against Cyril, and he was very very regretful about certain things that happened in the series as well, which is why I really appreciate the question right after that, after he's like expressing like his just his thoughts and how devastated he is and how unfortunate the situation is. the SC story, and he brings it back, and he's like, "Oh, but you did, you did really well at GSL, and it was really impressive to see you winning in GSL, so many years later after the fact, after coming back to the military." Like he kind of brought the question around into like a bit of a more positive light and positive note, which again I do appreciate. I know that Katz was doing a better job at doing that as well. We were very very cool about this during this year's EWC Esports World Cup. How Katz did a much better job this time when it came to approaching certain subjects and how to discuss losses and how to talk around it, or how to discuss other things and kind of turn things into a bit of a brighter note as well. I do think that the SE historian did a decent job here as well, so I do appreciate it. Again, he was Classic. He was asked directly about his approach in the finals. For those that missed out, for those who are maybe unaware, I mean, these are spoilers, bear that in mind. But at Classic, he did almost exclusively aggression and cheese in the finals. We in the lead talk, because we were covering it and casting it ourselves, we spoke about how this is what we expected, just because Classic did lose 3-0 with more macro and standard play in the group stage. So he went for a completely different approach in the finals, and he was asked about that, and Classic, he confirmed himself. He was saying how he didn't feel like he could go for the same approach, especially in a full best of 9 series, so he had to mix things up. But he does feel a lot of regrets because he wasn't playing his best. He spoke about a lot of mistakes he was conducting, supply blocks, missing pylons, and just some rough execution all around. So yeah, he was definitely a little bit regretful about some of those matches and some of those games. But he confirmed like what we had assumed coming into, of course, how he changed his approach, especially after what happened in the group stage against Cyril in that initial best of 5. And towards the end, he was asked about his motivations, and this kind of is going to be wrapped around towards the Clem interview as well. But it was asked about his motivations, asked about how he felt coming into 2025. There was a lot of uncertainty when it comes to how late the announcement was. Classic, he agreed. He was like, yeah, he took a break at the start of the year because he didn't know what was going to happen. Once EWC got announced, he went full force, locked in, and committed quite hard to improving, to competing, and he feels like he's at a high level again. He was asked how he felt about all these other tournaments rising up, like Fusion Esports League, the Polish LAN, Home Street Cup, the French tournament that was announced, of course, which we're also going to get into. And yeah, he said that like it was definitely motivating to know that there were all these other tournaments to compete for, to strive for, and to look forward towards as well. And as a player, it is definitely something that does impact him, that did benefit him, of course. So yeah, again, it was a very, very brief. Like when I say brief, I mean like 6 minutes, 5 minutes. Like it was a very short interview. So there wasn't too much that they could get into. But again, shout out to the SC historian for stepping in and for being able to provide this content, and a shout out to Classic for sharing his thoughts despite the circumstances, despite how rough the situation was right after the loss in the finals. So here we go. That led us into the Clem interview. The Clem interview was a little bit longer. It was a little bit more broad, or I say broad. It definitely had a different approach, of course. He was asked about a really interesting question to begin with. He was asked about his time away from home. Just because, for those that remember, we spoke about it leading up to EWC. Clem, he was in Korea, right? He was in Korea in preparation for EWC, which he did last year as well. He was in Korea with Rainer and with Trigger, practicing, competing, preparing for the Esports World Cup. And from there, he went to Riyadh, and from there, he went to Poland for the Fusion Esports League before going back home. Yeah, Ahmed, he was like, yo, how does it feel, being away from home for so long? And then Clem was like, huh, yeah, I think this is the longest I've been away from home, from France. Like, I think period. It's like, oh yeah, it's crazy. He didn't really think about it, but like, yeah. So it was a fun way to begin the interview as they got into it. He was talking about a little bit of his off race. He was asked about his, of course, Protoss versus Terran, and he spoke about how currently right now he feels more confident in PvT than he does in TvP. I should also emphasize this interview was conducted after his loss against Classic, so it was after he was out of the tournament, after he was out of the Esports World Cup. But yeah, he spoke on how like he feels more confident with Protoss than with his Terran, at least in those specific matchups right now. And how TvP can be very unforgiving. We spoke about this during the event, during the games themselves, about how unforgiving Terran versus Protoss is. Like, if you take an early loss, if you take some really rough trades early on, if you fall behind, it can be very difficult to recover. It's been something that we've been discussing in regards to TvP over the past couple of months at this point. Clem, he echoed those sentiments and echoed those thoughts. So definitely he feels a little bit of regret when it comes to his matches. He spoke about how mentally he was feeling pretty defeated after the first two games. After the 2-0 deficit that he was on, he was feeling very down, and he was very demotivated, and he was definitely out of it. He spoke about how, like, in game 3, he was kind of like revitalized after his Banshee got so much damage. I believe that was the game on almost said Pylon. On Persephone. I believe that was the game on Persephone where his Banshee's day popped off, and they brought him back into the game after a rough start, and he was, again, kind of echoing that, talking about how he definitely, like, kind of got like a boost of energy, and he was, like, fighting his heart out towards the end there, despite still going down. So yeah, they were just briefly discussing about the matchup, about the series. I think the SE historian, he joked with him about playing Zerg, and he was like, nah, I don't play any Zerg, and which is interesting in greater context, just because he recently had a show match where he did off race as Zerg. We'll get into that, I guess, later on in the tournament results. But he was talking about how Ahmed, he was asking him how his decision when it comes to going to South Korea, and how beneficial it is. And Clem, he did confirm, of course, that there's just better practice in Korea. Yes, there are some really good players in the European region, like Cyril, like Rainer, like Max Pax. There are some really good players, but the quantity of the quality of players is higher in South Korea, with Maru, with Björn, with Kyor, with Ryung, with Hero, Classic, Solar, Shin, Rogue. Like, there's just so many more players at that level. So he just spoke about how, like, it's just so much more beneficial to be able to ladder and to be able to play in Korea, because your player pool is just that much larger at that level of play. Of course, is specifically what he's referring to. When it comes to quantity of players, Europe has more, 100%. That there's more quantity, but at that level of play, the quantity is greater in Korea. And so he spoke about how, like, the ladder of the practice is just better there. He's able to practice more against Terran as well, of course, when it comes to his PvT. That definitely did help him. That's also why he's a little bit more confident in his PvT as well, because he got so much versus Terran practice in South Korea. So yeah, he was able to kind of, like, open up a little bit more about that. He was asked about the event that's happening in France. It's on the horizon, and he spoke about how excited he is. Spoke about how, hey, even if he doesn't qualify for the event, he'll be there. He'll go there. He'll be there. He'll be a part of the crowd. He'll definitely looking forward to enjoying StarCraft in France once again after so long. It's been so long since they had an O Gaming event in France. It must have been pre-COVID at this point, and even then, so it's been a while. So really cool to see the return of StarCraft.
I like the way you said, even if he doesn't qualify, as if they wouldn't invite him and just, like, have him there regardless.
True, that they'd probably bring him on as a caster, right? Like, but he's talking about the event itself. It's only top 4. Top 4 is offline. So he spoke about how if he doesn't make it to the top 4, like, he'll probably just go anyway to be a part of the event. So he briefly discussed that. Something, I guess, that's a little bit more interesting, and it's definitely it touches home a little bit more as well. He was asked about StarCraft without Esports World Cup. He was asked about, like, there once again there is uncertainty moving forward about whether or not there is going to be another StarCraft event at next year's Esports World Cup. Of course, like, there's a lot of high hopes that there will be. We discussed that last week, talking about the viewership, talking about the good numbers, and talking about how impressive it was, talking about how there were some higher ups at EWC that spoke highly of it and were very impressed by the numbers, and it all bodes well. But the reality is that there's still uncertainty around that. It was asked, like, how he would approach things moving forward. And Clem spoke about how as long as he can, earn a living playing StarCraft, then he'll play full time. If that stops happening, if there are less events and if there's less prize pool, then most likely, like a lot of other players currently, probably play part-time instead, where he'll compete, he'll play, but he'll probably spend a lot of time, instead of laddering, practicing, doing other things and spending his time elsewhere. Still, of course, like, he spoke about how he still loves the game, he enjoys playing, otherwise he wouldn't be here. But yeah, it's something that he would probably approach in a bit of a different manner, in a bit of a different light moving forward. But still be, traveling to your home story cups and competing in your home story cup and the France events, the Polish event as well, for example. Like, he still would want to be a part of the scene in some way, shape, or form, just maybe in a bit of a lesser capacity than currently, for example. It's assuming there is no EWC. So it was really cool to hear that again, like he'd be willing to. I mean, there's a reason why he accepted the invite to the Fusion Esports League, for example. To compete in Poland, to travel to Poland. Lastly, towards the end, he spoke about his expectations. The SC story, and he was like, "Oh, how'd you feel coming into the events? Did you have any extra pressure on you because you were the reigning champion and because like people expected more of you coming into this year's tournament?" He spoke about how other people have high expectations of me, like I don't. Like he was like, I don't try to like put too much pressure on myself moving forward or getting into these tournaments just because he doesn't want to disappoint himself either. Like he typically has more tempered expectations coming into it and just tries to go forward, one match at a time sort of thing. Which is really cool to hear. Clem, he's typically considered to be one of the more humble players out there. So definitely interesting to hear, I guess, a little bit more about his own mindset as well. I'm sure the pressure at times would get to him, which is why he again, just like, tries to take a bit of a step back and one match at a time. And then towards the end, he was asked, it looks like this interview was conducted after his elimination, but before the finals, and before the semis, actually. He was asked, who he thought would win EWC and how do you think the matches would go. We spoke about this when we were casting the event, about how coming into the semis, Solo would be the biggest threat of Cyril, but Solo, there was a low chance of him meeting Cyril. Clem, he kind of echoed those sentiments, saying that probably Solo would have a really strong chance against Cyril, but Cyril against Classic and Cyril against Cure, Cyril, he would be the favorite. And of course, we saw how the events played out and how the matches unfolded. And again, this is a bit of a longer interview between Clem and the SC historian. The previous one was 5-6 minutes. This was 10-11 minutes. So again, there's a little bit more time there, and I do recommend checking it out to give the SC historian a lot of love, a lot of support, just because he does travel to as many events as he can to create this content, to conduct interviews, to make these small docu-series as well. And it was really cool to hear from Clem, really cool to hear from him. Again, part of it was, about the future of StarCraft, or the future of Clem moving forward when it comes to what StarCraft looks like without EWC potentially, and of course more events to come in the future, like the event in France, which we will get to right here. Actually, speaking of, I keep referring to as the event in France, but it is going to be the Masters of the Game even. It was announced, I want to say 1-2 weeks ago. We did mention it here on stream during the PondCast, and we are slowly getting announcements as to who is going to be a part of the tournament. We have confirmation that Björn is going to be there. We can see Björn showing off his guns. Oh my god. I believe that is one of the photos used at EWC, by the way. But we do have 2 players confirmed, 2 Korean Terrans, Björn and Maru. They're both going to be at the event in France. Really cool to hear, really cool to see. I mentioned before that I was most disappointed with the Bellingens Star Zagora because Maru was going to the event, he was going to Bellingens, and then he cancelled in the end, Maru, because of his shoulder issues and because of GSL, because there was just so much StarCraft happening in such a congested period of time. He chose to forego his invite. He chose not to travel to Bellingens to Star Zagora to compete in that tournament, which means we never got Mara versus Clem. But potentially we're gonna get an event with the two. I mean, we are gonna get an event with the two of them, and there's a chance that we finally will get Clem versus Mara. That PVT we've all been waiting for. As Mara, he's the only Terran player that Clem hasn't been with his Protoss at a tournament, and only because they've never played. They've never played. Since all year. They have not competed, they have not played, so we do look forward to it. So again, that is going to be in September. Just bear that in mind. Mark your calendars. In September, that is when the Masters of the Game is going to begin. And again, Mara and Björn are also going to be involved. Let's go. A lot to look forward to coming up towards the end of the year. Up next, we have the SC2 Pulse survey that was released. So SC2 Pulse, for those that are unaware, is kind of like the new StarCraft or SC Unmasked. There were a couple of websites back in the day, like SC Unmasked. There was Ranked FTW as well, and a couple of other tournaments. Which helps provide stats for players and keep an eye on the ladder and allow you to look up certain players as well, win rates, MMR, kind of rate of progression. A lot of these websites have kind of fallen by the wayside. A lot of them, I believe, are just no longer being supported, no longer up and running, which is a really big shame. But SC2 Pulse has kind of stepped up and filled that role and has been providing that. And we use that quite often ourselves when it comes to our amateur tournaments. For every amateur tournament that we run, we always check the players. We do collect battle tags and make sure that they're of the MMR that they say, make sure that they play the games, as a lot of our amateur tournaments have ladder game requirements, have seasonal game requirements, career game requirements, and all those stats we can look up on SC2 Pulse. So it is a service that we use ourselves quite diligently, or quite excessively, when it comes to running our own amateur tournaments. So definitely a site worth supporting. And they have created a survey to reach out to the people, to the public, on what features they want added to their site. It sounds like obviously there are people working on it, but they have limited resources, limited time, and it sounds like maybe they are not certain themselves as to what to focus their time on. So a survey has been released. You can take part in the survey yourself as well. And again, especially if you use the site, or if you don't, maybe you should try checking it out. And you can kind of have your voice be heard as to what you want to see next and what they should focus on, prioritize, and what features to add. So yeah, really cool to see. I know I'll be doing the survey myself. For the most part, I believe like we already have what we need when it comes to how we run the events or how we run our tournaments, but always nice to see, just more added improvements, or just more work done on the site itself. More support, I should say. More support for the site. So really cool to see. That leads us into 25 years into our StarCraft 2 anniversary. StarCraft 2 25-year anniversary, which is crazy, Papi. It's crazy.
Well,
I say 25-year anniversary.
25
years of...
Yeah, 25 years of ESL and 15 years of StarCraft 2.
Yes, 15 years of StarCraft, 25 years of ESL. Of course, ESL, they would run things before StarCraft 2. They were running things for CS. I almost said CSGO. It's just become unanimous. Counter-Strike Source. I know they're doing events for Counter-Strike Source. And 1.6 back in the day as well. So, again, back in the day, I want to say that the original esports was like Brood War and 1.6. Like, they were both like, in their own kind of periods in time, kind of rising up. And yeah, they've been doing events for quite some time. I think Warcraft 3 as well. So yeah, it's I mean, shout out to ESL, and I mean, it's really cool to see the post, of course, being in regards to 25 years, but like a really nice image that they made, of course, with Scarlet, with Olivera, with SOS, with Cyril. Like, yeah, it's cool to see that this event made, of course, this post made, and especially nowadays, since ESL are kind of taking a step back from StarCraft. I say that even though the circuit has ended, doesn't mean that they're not going to host StarCraft 2 events in the future, right? I mean, hey, we saw that with DreamHack Dallas. We saw that with the DreamHacks this year. Sure, there was no EWC circuits, there was no EPT, ESL Pro Tour, that has since concluded, but there's still, of course, opportunities for them to run events, even if they're just qualifiers for EWC in the future. So I know that they fought hard to try to keep the league and to try to keep running StarCraft 2 events. They weren't quite able to pull it off, but yeah, I do look forward to. I mean, I'm hopeful that they're able to do more in the future. Keep the legacy going, baby. Keep it going. So again, the post was made, 25 years of ESL. That leads us, I mean, speaking of the future of StarCraft, that leads us into Stormgate. Stormgate has had a very shaky history, especially in recent times, in the past almost 2 years at this point, of early access. Stormgate, of course, there was so many high expectations for Stormgate, and at this point, I think most would agree that unfortunately, like, they didn't really have the best kind of roadmap moving forward. They maybe underestimated just how much work would be put in and how little time they had. Likewise, they had a lot of deadlines as well. I think this was made public, how they had certain deadlines by some of their sponsors, by some of their backers, I should say. I think specifically, oh god, which one was it? I think Cacao Games, like there were some that had certain deadlines that had to be met when it comes to releasing the game on early access. I think a lot of people were wondering, like, why they release the game in early access at this stage. I think since then it has been released, like, and they had to, just because of their backers, just because of their big supporters, referring to like the other kind of game publishers behind them that were funding the game and investing into the game. They had to kind of like push forward, and again, they've had like their own issues. I think they downscaled their team a little bit, and now they're kind of trying to focus their efforts and they're trying to move forward in the best way they can. What I will say, I myself haven't been able to play too much of Stormgate, but I think all are in agreement that the game is currently in a better state than it was at initial early access release. There's been a lot of revamps, there's been a lot of restructuring in regards to the campaign. Obviously, there was a lot of vocal feedback about the campaign, about the game itself, about the models, about the aesthetic, and a lot has changed, a lot has improved over time, which is definitely a good thing. But what the news is this week is that they are getting out, so they are stepping out from early access. Now, I try to phrase this in a very delicate way because they're not going to full release. So it's a little bit awkward in that sense. They're coming out of early access, but they're coming out, I believe, in version 0.6. Not 1.0. Like, they're not fully released yet, but they're still moving out of early access. I mentioned before, I just mentioned how they had to go into early access because of certain deadlines they had to meet, because of certain investors that they had. It wouldn't surprise me if this is another reasoning as to why they're pushing to go live right now, because of certain deadlines that they have. There are other reasons as well. There are other benefits, of course, when it comes to pushing live. There are two big ones that everyone's been discussing. One of them is that all the people that wishlisted this game and that haven't been following the progression of the game and haven't been following it in early access, for those who just wishlisted, they're all going to be notified when this game goes live. They're all going to be notified, hey, the game is live now. The game is on the proper Steam store. So they'll be notified, and most likely they're going to step in and buy the game, purchase the game, and play the game as well. The other big thing, I believe, is reviews. I believe Stormgate's, the early access version had some brutal reviews because of the state of the early access, and I believe it kind of like tanked to the review score quite a lot. I believe now that it moves from early access into the main storefront, then they will get basically the slate will be wiped clean in regards to its reviews, and it'll have like, there's going to be a distinguishing factor between the reviews provided during early access and the reviews provided when it goes live as well. So like, there are like technical benefits to doing this, to going for this move. Obviously, the downside is it's not a full game right now. It's not a full game, and there is going to be backlash regarding that. I would say, I think what some people have been saying, I would echo the same sentiments. The people that have been ragging on the game because of the state of the early access, I mean, that wouldn't have changed anyway. like the people that have low opinions of the game because of what happened in the lead up to this moment, like that, like you weren't going to win them over anyway when it comes to like how you go live or anything like that. So yeah, we'll see how they do. When it comes to their current launch, I believe they have their first act, or their first couple of chapters. I believe it's 12 missions. I believe 12 missions of the campaign are complete. A lot of these missions have not been revealed to the public yet. Like, a lot of those missions were not a part of the early access version. So basically, we have a bunch of new missions when it comes to the campaign. Likewise, 1v1 is going to be released, quote-unquote released. I know that they still plan on revamping one of the races, I believe Celestials. Celestials is still going to go through a big overhaul. I believe that's already public. When that happens, I mean, that's like, I think the next thing that they're working on. So they have their own roadmap, and they have like, you know, their own plans for the future of Stormgate. So that's still going to be on the horizon. Another big thing that is still not a part of the current launch is the 3-player co-op. 3-player co-op, which is meant to be a big part of this game mode. I believe even 3v3, that is still being worked on as well. I think they've added a new portion in the game, which is, I think they named it Sigma Labs. Don't know why they named it that, but they have Sigma Labs, and that's basically like work in progress stuff. And I believe in that work in progress, that's where you have the 3-player stuff. That's where you have like some of the things that they're still working on for the future. So that's like a quartered off part of the in-game clients. Of the in-game menus, but I believe they have, you know, good to launch, like the 12 missions, like 1v1, and I guess custom games as well. It's still something that they're actively working on. I should emphasize that just because the game is being released on Steam and just because it's being released as a full game, it is not complete, it is not done, and they're still actively working on it. They have released their own roadmap, and they're working on it as well. I think something that I should emphasize, I was talking earlier about how like there are some people that like have a lot of disdain for the game already because of their high expectations and because of what happened during the early access, that they they actively hate the game anyway. I guess what I'm getting at is there's like a narrative I think that they're trying to push that the Frost Giants they're like scamming people, like they're trying to like take people's money and like run away with that. I think it's quite clear that like they are actively working on the game. They do want to make the game. Things haven't gone well for them, and as I mentioned before, I do think that they probably overexceeded their own. They probably their expectations were set a little bit too high with what they wanted to accomplish with the staff that they had and with the resources that they had. I do think there was a lot of mismanagement. I don't think it was intentional by no means. I should like make that clear. I don't think it was intentional that they failed to meet set expectations, that they are still, you know, a work in progress, that they're behind schedule in a lot of aspects. I don't think that any of that is intentional. It's just, you know, one of those things where I think they even spoke about it in a video that they made a couple of months ago about how a lot of them are not necessarily used to working on a tighter budget. A lot of them are coming in from Activision Blizzard. A lot of them are coming in from a place where they have more resources to work with, where they don't maybe have as strict of a schedule to work with either, that they go at a certain pace, and that was like a bit of a shock to them as well. Like that like it's a change of environment, of course, moving from a big company like that to a more indie startup that is Frost Giants, and I don't think there's any malicious intent there by any means. They're still working on the game. They're still trying to push it forward. But again, it is definitely a rocky road for sure. And I do think, unfortunately, that Frost Giant and Stormgate have probably lost a lot of goodwill with a lot of the player base, with a lot of the populace out there, just because of the early access, because of the state of it, because there was just so many higher expectations for the game, which were not met. And I think a lot of people are probably writing it off at this point, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, I myself didn't even play it, but I myself, you know, I'm happy to just wait to see what comes of it. I'm not necessarily jumping at the idea of like casting any of the, you know, early access games or casting any of the tournaments that they're hosting. But I wish them the best for sure. Like I want them to do well, whether it's, you know, Frost Giant with Stormgate, whether it's the people working on Zero Space. I was going to say Battle Aces, but of course we know what happened with Battle Aces as well. But yeah, I do, of course, wish them the best. I do hope that they're able to, you know, achieve what it is they set out to do 100%. It is going to be a difficult road for them to travel, but regardless, do wish them the best. And hey, I'll definitely try it out. I believe it came out, the quote-unquote, the Steam store release came out like yesterday. I think yesterday, like a bunch of people were streaming it, like Nathanius and Wardy and Rotterdam. Like I think everyone was streaming and playing Stormgate yesterday. So I've yet to delve in myself. We've been a little bit busy when it comes to casting. So again, we cast StarCraft more than anyone else, which is good on one hand, but it also means we have no time to do anything else. We're busy casting StarCraft while everyone else is playing Stormgate. We have no time. But on top of that, I also recently spoke about how, you know, we have a new pet in our lives here at the Light household. So I've been spending a lot of my free time with our new pet bunny, so I just haven't had the time to delve into something like Stormgate. But you know, I will in the future for sure. One day, Papi, one day. Delve into it. I do wish them the best moving forward, because it's not going to be easy. It's not easy to kind of like gain back the trust of kind of like the gamer base. It's been done before. I think a lot of people, like, they bring up like CSGO. Remember, CSGO at launch was awful, and I think it took like over a year for CSGO to actually like hit its stride and actually become accepted. I remember when it first came out, I want to say that a lot of people were still playing Source. Like they just refused to switch. Like the majority of people just refused to switch over because of the state that CSGO was in when that first came out. Counter-Strike Global Offensive. There's that, for example. There were some others that were brought up. No Man's Sky, true. No Man's Sky was another one where everyone clowned in it, and I still feel like has a bit of a bad reputation, to be fair. But got better over time. You know, the developers, they stuck to it to the point where I believe now it is like a solid game. After, you know, years of kind of working on it and support. There's another that kind of crossed over my mind. What do I think of? No Man's Sky. Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is another one, right? Cyberpunk, when that first came out, was a buggy mess, and it got destroyed by by reviewers and by everyone, deservedly so. Like, it came out in a very broken state, and it took likewise a long time for Cyberpunk to also be worked on, to also be patched, to also be developed to the point where now it is like a solid game as well. Like, there are examples of developers and games kind of overcoming their initial launch, if their initial launch was a rough one, but it's of course still going to be a difficult thing to achieve, and wish the best to Frostgiant with those working on Stormgate. True, Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, how could I forget? That's the classic one. Final Fantasy 14.
Final Fantasy 14 is a whole like different level of that, because what happened to Final Fantasy 14 is like, I think it like 2 years passed or something like that, and the game was just in an absolutely awful state, and they just you know what, we're changing all of the like leading project people. We just changed all of the stuff and just made their own game essentially.
I think that's the more extreme example, because you're right in the sense that they like fired everyone and they rehired like for Final Fantasy 14, it was almost like they just made another game, almost.
I mean, they literally did, because they shut down the old servers, just launched new ones. They literally just remade the game from scratch. They're like, you know what? This is not savable. This is not salvageable.
That's the more extreme one for sure. But yeah, in a way, another example of that happening, and to the point where it's now a game loved by many. So again, wish the best to Frostgiant until he's working on Stormgate as well. It's not going to be easy, but wish them the best. I think the other worrisome thing about Stormgate is the fact that they're an indie team. So something that's always plaguing them and that people are always bringing up is the lack of funds, or is there limited funds? Maybe that's a better way of putting it. They do have much more limited funds by some of these other big games and by these other big development companies. So that's another thing that is like a big hurdle for them as well, which has to be overcome. So that also adds another layer of difficulty on Stormgate. Is that ironic? Like, people always joke about how StarCraft is an indie game because Blizzard doesn't support it, even though they could, because they have the funds and the resources. Activision Blizzard, or now Microsoft as well. For Stormgate, when you say it's an indie game, it's actually an indie game. It actually has very much so limited funds and limited support. So that is like a layer of difficulty there that is going to be a challenge. So wish them the best. As that goes into our final, let's see in chat. That goes into our final bit of news to end this week's news of the PondCast in StarCraft or StarCraft adjacent. It is awful to hear. It's something that's no parent should ever have to go through. We did mention this a couple of weeks ago about Pig and the birth of his son, and how he was now father. It was announced earlier this week, a couple of days ago, that Theo did pass away. And that is, of course, Pig's newborn son. We all knew that there were a lot of complications coming into this. Unfortunately, Theo was 24 weeks early, so was underdeveloped in a lot of ways. The biggest way, of course, was his lungs. So he was having a very, very hard time breathing on his own. Pig did make a post about this, going into a little bit more detail as of that. Pig has been MIA for quite some time, especially last week, because he was spending his time with his family, spending his time at the hospital. That's why he wasn't casting and wasn't streaming. A lot of people were tuning in for like last week's Pigassert Cup and a bunch of other tournaments, being like, "Hey, where's Pig? What's going on?" And we're like, there's other things happening. And of course, because of his newborn son, was spending time elsewhere. And we did get the unfortunate news that Theo did pass away. My heart goes out to Pig, to Jared, 100%. Like, he's I would say a good friend in the space, and right now is definitely a difficult time for himself, for Dot, and I would say for all of you out there to give some love, give some support to Pig as well. He did make a post on Twitter and on YouTube community posts, and I do recommend maybe expressing those thoughts there more so than his stream. Pig did start streaming, I want to say yesterday, maybe the day before, but he recently started streaming again, and I would probably advise not to bring this up during the stream itself, bearing in mind that he's going live to put on a show, to put on a broadcast, to entertain more than anything. And I don't know if that's maybe the best space to kind of bring this up in. just try to be a little bit self-aware and try to be a little bit again considerate and empathetic as to what Pig and what Dot have been going through. So again, if you do want to reach out, if you wanted to give Pig some support, again, I think he said himself that like he is actively reading all the responses to his thread, to his Twitter posts, to his YouTube comments as well. So you can leave some messages there. You can maybe reach out privately as well, but definitely be respectful to the kind of the situation that has unfolded. And again, much love to Pig for sure, and yeah, wish him the best. Yeah, he's already done like so much for the scene, not just when it comes to casting, not just when it comes to creating content, but even stepping into a bigger role when it comes to StarCraft. We spoke last week about the proposed balance patches and him trying to take a step forward when it comes to leading that discussion as well. And yeah, right now is definitely not a good time for Pig and his family. So again, much love to Pig, much love to Dot, much love to everyone involved, and yeah, do reach out if you feel the need to, or again, just tune into a stream, just even watching, just to show your support, for sure. Shout out to Pig. As that is gonna wrap up our topics, our news here of the week. We still have, of course, all the tournaments that unfolded this week. We are going to be going on a short break. When we come back, we are going to be going through all the tournament results of the weekly tournaments and of all the modded tournaments as well. We'll see you soon after the break. And welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the PondCast. Welcome back to our weekly wrap-up show, our weekly talk show of all things StarCraft, episode number 57. We just went over our weekly topics, our weekly news, I should say, and now we're going into our tournament results. Up first, we have our modded events. No SC EVO tournaments here, as the StarCraft Illusion Championship is around the corner. It's on the horizon. First, though, we do have the Patches Patch Clash number 2. Patches, of course, is a community figure who is a map maker. He makes maps. He also does host his own tournaments, and he did take the extra step and did make his own patch notes and patch list as well, and has been running and hosting events on his own patch. And here we have the results of the second event. Here we do have GG Machine. He pops off, takes down Homeowner 2-0, takes down Jimmy 2-1, Art 2-0, and Bappy made it to the final. That's crazy. And takes down Bappy 3-1 in the grand finals. Very impressive showing here by GG Machine. Patches. He comes in. He patches the game. And a Zerg wins? When was the last time we had a Zerg champion in an online tournament? Like, that's crazy. Oh my god. He fixed the game, but oh my god, he patched it. Meanwhile, shout out to Bappy. Bappy, he also went on a tear. I mean, best of ones in the lower brackets, so a bit of a different format, bit of a different result, different setup there. But Bappy took down Jimmy, took down Hacker Sub, and took down Art as well. So very impressive play there out of Bappy to make it all the way to the finals. But congratulations to GG Machine for claiming the win. GG, well played. And again, I know that Patches, he is iterating and working on his patch notes and trying to refine his own approach to the game as well. So GG, well played. That leads us into our amateur tournaments here. That leads us into the Amateur League Weekly number 134. This is a circuit or a league series here where we have a tournament for each kind of bracket of player, MMR range, I should say. This is for players between bronze and platinum. This is the Initiate Weekly. Here we did have Ragnar going to town. I think it was last week where Ragnar was able to be the champion. Here he makes it all the way to the finals where Kimari brings Ragnar down 3-0. So Kimari does take the 2-1s. I actually did go to the ace match previously against Bimbapunk, against Milo, but did have a more stronger series here, stronger showing against Ragnar. So congratulations to Kimari for claiming the win. Congratulations. That leads us into our veteran tournaments, into the veteran league for Diamond 3, between the leagues of Diamond 3 and Diamond 2. Here we have Taldarim. Not the first time. Taldarim has been looking very strong in these tournaments. Takes down Nelsdog 2-1, takes down Split, takes down Lauren, takes down Split in the grand finals. So strong showing there by Taldarim. Did go all the way to the ace match earlier against Nelsdog, but did look quite dominant in the other matches. So congratulations. Again, not the first time we've seen Taldarim take the win. GG well played. That leads us into the Prestige Tournament. This is for the leagues between Diamond 1 and Masters 2. Here, this is, I would say, one of the more populated brackets and more populated kind of league ranges here of tournament. Here we did have Beast. Beast takes down Wiseman 2-1. It's been a while since I've seen Wiseman. Takes him down 2-1. Takes down Steez 2-1. So we had a bunch of ace matches, and in the finals he goes down to Wiseman in the rematch. Let's go, Este Wiseman. He went on a tear in the lower bracket. Takes down Set, takes down Arez, and takes down Steez as well. A player that I'm not seeing here that is typically a regular is, of course, Dizzydorf. Dizzydorf, he was not in this week's tournament. I know he has been getting better. Fun fact, Dizzydorf, he's gotten to the point where he actually cannot play in our tournaments. He did exceed the MMR restriction for a Masters 1 Open. That is why we have not seen Dizzydorf in recent times. But I believe he still is able to compete in these events, but not this week. Not this week, he was not there. And congratulations to the wise man for claiming the win. That leads us into the elite version between the leagues of M1 and GM. This is the least populated version. Again, most pro players and most GMs do just compete in tournaments that provide prize money. Here, only points are awarded, so there's a little bit less incentive, and as a result, there's just not many that really take part in these tournaments. Here we did have Ledlix. Ledlix, he does get a walkover over Miss Crimson, so Ledlix does get the walkover win in the Elite Weekly. GG. GG well played here to Ledlix. That leads us into the SDO. That leads us into the Duckling Open. That is our monthly tournament for those between the MMR ranges of 0 to 4.2k MMR, bronze to diamond. So here, this is our weekly tournament, and we had Winter. Winter did pop off. Winter, he is a regular in our tournaments. He does show up quite regularly for our weeklies. Likewise, we didn't really have too many newer players here. You can see Nelson, he was in this tournament as well. Droptimus, it's been a while since he's competed. Optimus, he's of course in the Americas. Our tournaments are not friendly to the Americas when it comes to their time slot and time zone. So shout out to any players from the Americas that ever compete, from Latino America or from North America as well. So Optimus, he was able to take a game off of Winter, and Winter again, he dropped a map to everyone, to Optimus, to Horseradish, and to Hobo Bobo as well. But in the end, it does claim the win. So congratulations to Winter. Congrats. As I think for the first time, he is our Sea Duckling Open champion. Likewise, that leads us into the Passioncraft Emerging Stars number 27. This is also MR restricted. Again, all the tournaments that we're getting into are all MR restricted in some way. This is for those that are 5.5k MR and below. That is kind of low to mid-ish GM. Low to mid GM, or low GM, yeah, I would say like around low GM, is Passioncraft Weeklies. This is for the rising stars, of course, for those that are kind of rising through the ranks in the GM League. And here we did have Anticore. Anticore took down F2 Click 2-1, Magnat 2-0, but went down to Sodavlad 3-2, went all the way to the ace match. Really impressive performance. Not the first we've seen of Sodavlad. He did compete, I want to say, in the previous tournaments, or there was another event that we did actually see him in that did catch our attention. So really cool to see him here once again, claiming the win and qualifying for the OSC Elite Rising Star as well. GG, well played. It does take down Anticore in the finals.
I do want to point out that on the Wikipedia page, it does not say that they qualify for the Rising Star. Although I don't know if this is just something that was missed or if the way it's handled has changed. It just says that it grants OSC points.
Yeah, I did notice that as well. So I mean, we'll see. It's possible that that maybe like tentatively, like we're not really preparing for OSC Elite Rising Star number 17 yet, just because it's so far away. So hard to say whether or not maybe retroactively they will be inviting Sodavlad to the OSC Elite Rising events or not. So we'll find out. We'll find out what happens in the future of those OSC tournaments. It's also possible that because it's also very possible because the OSC Elite Rising Star tournament took so long to get going, so many more players qualified for it from the Passioncraft tournaments, that maybe after that one event, Eddie's like, you know what, we should probably like slow down a little bit. Like there's like so many people qualified for the events than normally, because of how many Passioncraft tournaments there were, that maybe we should temper that a little bit before the next one. So it's possible that they're like kind of like revising kind of their approach to how they want players to qualify for the tournament.
I was gonna say, to be fair, like they could also handle it the way where like you just grant them OSC points and then just go through the ranking and just, you know, take the players at that MMR or like at that range that have X number of like, you know, OSC points, and just like seed them by that. And then that also incentivizes them to play in more tournaments that are OSC.
Yeah, there are other ways to kind of approach how invites work and how seeding works. I mean, again, we'll see how Eddie does kind of like approach that in the future, and how they kind of revise this, and how they want to seed the OC Elite Rising Star 17. I guess time will tell. Time will tell when the next one does come around. As we do get into our final kind of events like this, that is going to be Thermal 2v2 Circuit Warm-Up Cup number 5. This is the final Warm-Up Cup before the main circuit. Again, Thermal, he is going to be running the 2v2 circuit starting tomorrow, by the way. It is right around the corner, the biggest 2v2 event in the history of StarCraft 2. But before that event, we had these warm-up cups. These are these weekly tournaments just to give players a reason to compete, to improve, to take part, and to warm up and get ready for that big circuit. Let's go. For this tournament, what were our pairings? Here we had Spirit and Showtime. Once again, no Max Packs. No Max Packs. The Spirit, he showed up with Showtime. Showtime, of course, is the replacement man. Meanwhile, once again, we have the two rivals unite. They didn't go far, but we had Geralt and Christiana. Again, Geralt and Christiana, they did join forces for this event. They got knocked out early on by Moja and Optimus, but really cool to see them joining forces nonetheless. We once again had the return of Euthermal and Goblin. They did take part together. They went up against an interesting pairing, actually. Lambo and a Laser. Lambo, he's usually playing with another Protoss player. He's usually playing with Showtime or with Hearthstone or with Kelazar as Terran. This is the first time I've seen Lambo with a Laser. A Laser also is typically playing with Skillus. But I should also mention, we spoke about this last week, these warm-up cups also give you the opportunity to play with other people they otherwise wouldn't, which is really important coming into the main circuit. The 2v2 circuit does not have a lot of teams. In the 2v2 circuit, the format is so different and so unique, where all these players have to play with a new partner every round. Every round they're paired up with a different player, so you have to excel in 2v2, not just with your typical partner, but in every matchup with a Terran partner, with a Protoss partner, with a Zerg partner, with another player. So these are really good opportunities to catch someone, to get someone that's maybe in your group to play together for the first time, to be able to ease yourself into it, to kind of break that in, and to be able to play 2v2 with someone that you're not familiar with, to kind of prepare for the circuit. So really cool to see Lambo and Laser playing together for the first time. Likewise, we did have Jumi and Yakov. They've been on and off together, so cool to see them joining forces once again. Milky Cow and Wayne, they joined forces once again. We have GG Machine and Shameless. We have Def Mars and Zardians. A lot of the other pairings here are typically what we expect, but this time, we see Def Mars and Zardian take down Jumi and Young Yakov. Very impressive. Likewise, I would say that the strongest team in the CIS region is GG Machine and Shameless, but they went down to Milky Cow and Wayne. Milky Cow and Wayne, they're a lot more aggressive. They're a lot more cheesy. I would say maybe they're one of the cheesiest teams in 2v2. They take down G Machine Shameless, they take down Def Mars and Zardian, and they take down Spirit and Showtime in the finals. Very impressive. Very impressive play there. GG will play it to Milky Cow and Wayne as they become this week's Warm-Up Cup champions. Congratulations here to our duo. And again, wish all the players, of course, the best of luck coming into tomorrow's circuit. Oh boy, it's in just over 24 hours, by the way. Just over 24 hours is going to be that next circuit. Meanwhile, that leads us into our regional events. That leads us into the return and the beginning of a new season of Code for Giants Cup. The Brazilian circuit is back, has returned. We did not cover this event. We did speak on this previously, but we're trying to take things a little bit slow in the aftermath of EWC, so we're casting a little bit less than we used to. We're still casting and we're still streaming on a daily basis, but we're maybe once a day instead of like twice a day, 3 times a day, every single day. So we're taking things a little bit slower here. As I mentioned before, I do have a new member of the family here as well. So we're maybe spending some time elsewhere working on other things. Spending times outside of the game, unfortunately, true. But here for this Code for Giants Cup, we had Master. He does pop off, gets his revenge over Kamikaze, true. Takes on Kamikaze 2-0, then goes up against Inexorable in the grand finals, takes him down 3-2. Inexorable, he went on a deep run himself, didn't drop a single map until those finals. Again, Master, I would say, is the strongest Protoss player in all of Brazil, but he was not a part of the finals, he was not a part of that offline event because Kamikaze cheesed him the hell out, and here he gets his revenge, takes down Kamikaze, takes down Inexorable. Really cool to see they went all the way to game 5. Really impressive play there. Again, both players are quite close in skill. I still lean towards Master, and Master did barely take it in the end. GG well played. And I don't think we have full confirmation yet, but I look forward to maybe another circuit, another big offline tournament. We'll see if we work towards that once again, as the circuit has begun once more. Circuit has begun. Another event did take place as well. They did begin their own Latin American, I believe monthly. I believe there's a Code for Giants Cup like monthly Latin American tournament. We'll be going over those results next week because we are going to be casting those matches via replays. We're going to be all over that here on the CranKy Ducklings. That leads us into El Cubano tournament, the StarCraft 2 Cuban Invitational. Again, back in the day, there used to be so many Cuban tournaments. I say so many. There used to be weekly tournaments, week after week after week, hosted and organized by Xavier, and here he is once again. Great to see him. Xavier, the Cuban Terran player, he is here. He did not organize the event. That was organized by Cubano. Cubano, he actually played as well. And in the end, we did have Wallace. Again, there is an active scene, an active circuit when it comes to Cuban StarCraft. Names that I recognize are Cubano, Xavier, Slayers, MVP, of course, as well. But there's some of the others that I'm less familiar with, so really cool to be introduced to them. Wallace, he doesn't drop a single map. He takes the entire tournament, 2-0 over Census and 3-0 over Rathma as well. Very impressive play there by Wallace. GG. GG, well played. Does take the win, does take the entire tournament, and we'll see if this becomes a regular event. We'll see if we get some more Cuban StarCraft in the future. Let's go. That leads us into our Legacy Weekly Japan. We go from Latino America over to Asia. Japanese Weekly. Every single week, we do have a Japanese tournament. We have the Legacy Weekly Japan number 466. Crazy amount of weeklies here. And I'm still looking for tapioca even, I should say. And I believe that's tapioca. Let's see. Hold on. Translate. One of these days, I'll know just by seeing. Yeah, 30. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Tapioca comes out swinging. Tapioca is back. Takes down Crimson 2-0. Takes down Antado. Raven 2-0. Takes down Sayark 2-0. And takes down Hirekui 2-0 as well. Very impressive play there by Boba. Tapioca again, it has kind of come out of nowhere. I want to say a couple of months ago it came out of nowhere. I mean, came out of nowhere, has been competing for quite some time, and recently has found their stride, and recently has been more of a regular when it comes to winning these tournaments over your typical champions like Sayark, like Vaisravanya, like Crimson, like these other players in Japan. So really impressive play there. Really cool to see Tapioca making his return and claiming another win. Claims another. GG. Tapioca. As that leads us into the Sunrise Cup number 210. This is a weekly Chinese tournament, so weekly tournament for the Chinese players. Here we had Joliwa Loves takes down Miggy, takes down Latte, and it does take down Smile in the grand finals. In my mind, the two top players here would have been Joliwa and Young Zest. I rate Young Zest very highly, but Young Zest went down early to Smile. So really impressive showing here. Like Smile sure went to the finals, took down Ear, took down Ghost Runner. I would say the 2-0 over Young Zest was the most impressive result there early on. So really impressive play. Smile has not really been on my radar as of late. I look at typically a lot of the other Protoss players or players like Oriana as well. So really cool to see a Zerg player excelling here in the Chinese region, just because that's a bit of a rarer sight, right? Wanted, he retired quite some time ago. Silky, not the most active of players either, not anymore. We had Tsukino. Hey, I believe Tsukino won last week, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just double check that. Tsukino, yes, did win last week. Did win last week's tournament. Tsukino is the player that went down to Joliwa Loves in the semifinals. This week does fall in the semis, and again, Smile made to the finals as well. So really cool to see Tsukino and Smile actually excelling and getting some better results here. Really cool to see. I'll keep my eye on them in the future as well, for sure. GG, well played. That leads us into the Little League Cup number 43. This was a fun show match here that was hosted. I was very tempted to cover this event as well, but as we mentioned, like, we have been taking things a little bit slower here, so we've been taking a bit of a step back, not casting everything. May go back and cover this later though, depending on how slim our schedule is. I might just reach out for some Little League Cup 43 replays. But apparently we had an off-race show match. Clem and Rainer. We spoke earlier during the interview that the SE historian had, where Clem said that he wasn't really playing Zerg at all. He wasn't really confident in his Zerg. It wasn't really something he was considering. But hey, we have an off-race show match, and clearly Clem's Zerg and Rainer's Terran are close in skill. Clearly they're very close here. Best of 7 went all the way to game 7, and Rainer did barely clutch it out in the end. 4-3 went all the way to game 7. Crazy result. Crazy show match, and again, really cool to see Rainer and Clem having fun with their off race, and Rainer popping off. Congratulations to Rainer, as he does show Clem how to play some Terran, and does claim the win. GG. Apparently it was covered by Wardy. Apparently Wardy did step in to cast this. Again, we might cover these matches ourselves in the future via replays. It does depend on what our schedule is looking like. If we ever have like a free day available, then sure, we'll step in, we'll cover these matches. Otherwise, we have, speaking of the Elite Rising Star Tournament, the OSC Elite Rising Star number 16. This is a tournament that is, of course, focused towards players that are still up and coming, basically players that have made it to these big offline tournaments that have excelled and had some deep results in GSL, in DreamHacks, in ESL Pro Tours, in regional tournaments, are ineligible for this tournament. So this is more for the up and comers instead. And we did cast day one. Day one was this week, and we casted 10 best of threes. so many best of threes, Pappy. We had a lot of really crazy results. Moja, I was impressed. Moja took down Eva 2-0. Percival took down Sig 2-0. Sorry, I don't want to gloss over that actually. Sig, he impressed us. He took down Middle VK. Sig, he's still like a younger up and coming player. So for him to take down Mindle was very impressive. Not something that we were expecting. So it was able to take him out. We saw Sebastian take down Hydra. Art took down F2 Click. Art took down Jomek. Art, I would say an upset. Polish Art took down Shameless 2-0. I rate Shameless very highly nowadays. I rate him very highly. So for Art to bring him down is a very impressive result. We had Zebestas taking down Inexorable. We had Baby Marine. Baby Marine took down Night Phoenix as well. And we still have many more matches ahead of us. Something I should emphasize is this tournament is double elimination. Double elimination tournament. So there's still plenty more matches to go. And no one is eliminated yet. Now, yes, we did cast day one, but we have no confirmation. We have no guarantee that we're going to be casting any other day in this tournament. Again, typically Eddie does kind of rotate. So sometimes he approaches Wardy, Steadfast, Chicken Man, Dave Testa, or ourselves. So whoever is available, whoever steps in, will be covering that week's tournament. In regards to OSC King of the Hill, in regards to these elite tournaments as well. So we might step in and cast day 2 or day 3 or day 4, or it might go to someone else. Regardless, we at least cover day 1. And a lot of really fun matches. I will say some one-sided series, a lot of 2-0s. A lot of 2-0s. We only had one series that went to the ace match, and that was Babe Marine and Night Phoenix. And it was very intense, very short games, a lot of aggression, a lot of all-ins. A lot of all-ins there. But GG, well played. With that, that leads us into the OSC 2025 mid-season playoffs number 1. Here we go. We do have some progression here. I feel like it's been a while since we got an update. Right? I feel like it's been a while. It's been weeks. I want to say that we took a bit of a break because of EWC, right? Because of the Esports World Cup and because of all these tournaments happening, all these offline events happening, and all these players traveling. We did not have as much time to actually delve into this tournament, so there was a bit of a break. But now we are here, now we are back, and do we know what updates we had here? Do we know what matches were played out?
If you take a quick look at our live feed channel, they are right there.
Oh, I was looking at PondCast notes.
Oh no,
it wasn't there. Oh no. Oh, we have Cham. We had Cham versus Bunny. Oh my, Cham's been popping off. Chamby 2-0'd Mana. Cham 3-1's Bunny as well. Very impressive. Cham, he's in the finals. He makes it all the way to the grand finals. And he is waiting for his next opponent. Very impressive play there out of Cham. Meanwhile, Björn versus Trigger did take place. And Björn did take down Trigger 3-0. We had Shin versus Christiana. That also went Shin's way. Shin took down Christiana 3-1. We had Björn versus Shin. Shin took down Björn 3-1. So Björn is now out of the tournament. Shin does advance on in his stead. And we had Showtime versus Spirit. Showtime knocking Spirit out of the tournament. So we have our top players. We have our top players here. We have our top 6. Cham in the finals, Bunny in the lower bracket finals, and then to face off against them, we have Mana, Shin, Skillus, and Showtime. We're nearing the end of the tournaments. 1 or 2 more broadcasts to go, and we can crown our OSC mid-season playoffs champion for 2025. Coming into this, who do I favor? Ooh, I think I lean quite heavily to Shin, maybe. I mean, I say that. If Shin plays against Showtime, I can see Showtime winning. I can see Showtime excelling in that matchup, and I can see Showtime advancing on to play off against Bunny. Actually, Showtime might be the sleeper. Who knocked out Showtime? Hold on. How did Showtime get down there? Showtime, ooh, he lost to Bunny 2-0. Okay. Because if you look at Showtime's performance, Showtime, he knocked out Percival, he knocked out Solar, he knocked out Spirit. I can see Showtime going all the way for that rematch against Bunny. Now, how will that differ is the question. Now, Bunny is hyper aggressive. I would not be surprised if Bunny all in 2 games in a row. Like Bunny, he is very fond of all inning, specifically in TVP. Not the other matchups, but in TVP, he is one to all in quite often. So Showtime, now that he's familiar with him, is he going to be able to, to become Demour and be the wall and be defensive and survive the aggression of Bunny? I would say that there's a higher chance of that happening in the rematch now that Showtime has a better idea of how Bunny plays, but there's still no guarantee. So in my mind, I want to say either Showtime, if he can beat Bunny, I think he can win the entire tournament. Otherwise, I do favor Bunny in the rematch against Cham. Like, Cham has been looking crazy good. True. He's been looking insane in this tournament. But whether it's Bunny or Showtime, I do lean towards them a little bit more than Cham in said rematch. But, of course, hey, Mana can pop off. 100% Shin can pop off. Skillers can pop off. Best of luck to all the players. Best of luck to all the players involved. And again, that'll be most likely over on Wardy's channel. Typically, whenever we reach the tail end of this tournament, that is when Wardy steps in, and Wardy typically does cover those finals. So best of luck. Best of luck in that tournament. That leads us into our weeklies, our weekly roundup here. Our weekly tournaments did take place. And up first, we do have the KSL, the Korean StarCraft League, week number 78. We go back into form in a sense. Like, this tournament is Hero's tournament. Hero, he is the KSL champion. There's only, I think, there's 2 KSLs that he didn't win. One he just didn't sign up for, so he didn't get to win it. Sorry, I think there were 2 that were like that. And there's only one KSL in the history of 2025 where he signed up and didn't win. That was a couple of weeks ago where he lost against Classic. That was pre-EWC, but here he gets his revenge. Here he takes down Rogue, takes down Prome, and takes down Classic in the finals. GG, well played. Again, it was very intense, very chaotic, very short finals with Hero and Classic just all-ing each other, hyper aggression. Classic had a really strong showing as well, taking down Nice, taking down Cure as well, but it all came down to Hero and Classic, and Hero did come out on top. Hero, again, he's very much so in form. He spoke about how he had a lot of regrets about EWC. He wasn't able to show off his builds, but here he was looking crazy. He was even cannon rushing. Like, Hero, not against Classic, against Rogue. I think it was game 1 against Rogue. Hero cannon rush. He was an animal. He was an absolute animal. But regardless, really cool to see. Him coming back into form, and does claim the win. That leads us into this week's Tuna Cup, the Sparkling Tuna Cup number 100. This is a very special edition. Number 100, triple digits here for the STC. As a result, we double the prize pool. We double the prize pool specifically for this tournament. So we have a boosted prize pool for the finalists for the number 1, number 2, and 3 and 4 as well. So congratulations to our top players here, as we had a banger of a tournament. Now, all the players, or most of the players here, were regulars, or they've previously competed in our tournaments, but rarely do we ever see them all together at once. It was an all-star showing for this week's STC. We had Björn, we had Creator, we had Cristiano, we had Showtime, we had Skillus. Like, we had such high caliber players. Usually it's like a mixture of them, maybe like 3 of them. Maybe like 2 or 3 of them, right? And the semis and finals, they pop off, of course. But it's a rare sight to see them all of our regulars show up here. We're missing Shin. Este Shin. As always here, minimal Zerg representation. We had, I think I casted a GG Machine versus Percival just to get some Zerg in the mix. But as it typically is with these online tournaments, full of just Protoss and Terran, as we're used to seeing. But again, we had a PvP finals. Creator takes down Beyond, Showtime takes down Skillus, and Showtime takes down Creator 3-2 in the grand finals. A very intense finals as well. Non-stop all-ins, non-stop proxies, non-stop aggression. It was a very short finals. I think there was one quote-unquote macro game where the players got up to 3 bases. I think there was one game where that happened. Every other game, just hyper aggression and GG. GG, well played. Missing also Ryung. Yes, the only true. We should have reached out. We should have reached out to the Tuna himself. Ryung was missing for this week. It would have been amazing to have seen the Tuna in Tuna Cup number 100. That's on us. That's on us. We should have reached out. But really cool to see the turnout here for this tournament. Really appreciate it, and much love to the players. Much love, GG, well played, and hey, congratulations to Showtime. Hey, Showtime, we just 2-0'd Skills in this tournament, and hey, they're going to be facing off in the World TV, sorry, in the OC mid-season playoffs as well. Again, there's a reason why I'm leaning towards Showtime in his current form, but again, it was still a very clutch finals nonetheless. Was very close, was very clutch. That leads us into the World TV Monday number 46. Whew, here we go. Here we had a Creator. He popped off. Oh my god, Creator. purely PvP for Creator. He takes down Cristiano 2-1, takes down Hero 2-0, takes down Shameless 2-1. Again, Shameless has been popping off as of late. Speaking of Shameless popping up, look at this series. Look at this run. Shameless, he 2-0'd Showtime. Showtime, who just took down Creator, who just won the Tuna Cup. He goes down to Shameless in the first round. Again, Shameless, he's crazy. Takes down Showtime, takes down Rebellion, does fall to Creator, but hey, went all the way to the ace match, and then Max Pax was looking dominant in those finals. Now, what I will say, this marks the beginning of a new era, specifically of Max Pax. If you're watching those finals, if you missed it, watch the VODs. Check out the VODs here for this week's World TV Monday and for this week's Pigstar Cup as well. Max Pax, he is known for being very predictable, very one-note, and very inflexible in PvP, specifically in PvP. And to be fair, it has been working for years. Like, Max Pax, he had the best PvP in the world in 2024, and I would say in 2023 as well. Those 2 years, like Max Pax, he had straight up the best PvP in the world, and that was like what he typically did rely upon at times as well. But ever since the new patch, Max Pax has been struggling. He has been struggling. He has been attempting to do what he does best, and that is just gate Cyber into Stargate into expansion. Same build every single game. But typically what that would mean is that his opponent would just one-base all in. His opponent would one-base all in to punish his greed when it comes to PvP, and he would defend, survive against it, and shut it down. In the latest patch, we have seen so much more diversity though, and Max Pax has been struggling against that. We've seen players go for all-ins against Max Pax, one-base all-ins. We've seen players fake one-base all-ins. We've seen players out-greed Max Pax and go for Nexus first or even Gate expands and get away with it. We've seen so much more diversity ever since the new patch in PvP, and Max Pax, because of his inflexibility, has been struggling that much more. Until this week, I bring this all up just because in this finals, we saw, I don't think Max Pax ever went for the Max Pax opener at all. Like, we saw him cheese, we saw him proxy, we saw him go for 2 gate openers as well. Max Pax looked like a different player. he looked like he was playing PvP. It was crazy. He was playing StarCraft. I mean, oh my god. But Max Pax, he looked so different. It looks like he has finally taken or decided to just adjust his approach, adjust his builds, and start to diversify that much more in PvP and have more variety. It is really cool to see. It's really cool to see here. This marks the beginning of something special, potentially. If you recall, during that finals, I was talking about how, like, is this a one-off thing? Because Creator is also known for greed. So is this a one-off thing against Creator, or are we going to see more of this moving forward? Well, that leads us into the Pigstar Cup. Now, we'll get there. And Max Pax does claim the win. Congratulations to Max Pax. That then led us into the Roddy All Random Tournament, which, as it states, Rotterdam did host a tournament where all players play purely random. It was a double elimination, and here we had Jimmy popping off, showcasing his random. Shout to Rodzen. I haven't seen Rodzen in a bracket in a while. It's been a while since we've seen Rodzen, so really cool to see Rodzen. Rodzen takes down Hacker's Top, takes down Greener, takes down, or does fall to Jimmy, both in the upper bracket and in the finals as well. But Rodzen, he had a really strong showing nonetheless, so really cool to see Rodzen popping off. And congratulations to Jimmy for becoming the random champion. With that brief break, we then led into the Pigstar Cup number 43, and this is what I was referring to, because we saw Max Pax once again go up against Estrella in the semis, and just like against Creator 2 days prior, we saw Max Pax also go for 2 gate openers, proxies, cheeses, all-ins. He rarely went for what he has been known for many years, which was a quote-unquote Max Pax opener of being greedy, going for a gate, cyber, Stargate, expand. That did not happen in this series. Didn't happen against Creator, did not happen against Estrella. This is now the second tournament where we have seen Max Pax showcase a completely different style of PvP, more of what Hero's been doing, more of what Classic has been doing, more of what the Koreans have been doing. So Max Pax has kind of like embraced that much more. Now that we've seen this 2 tournaments in a row, I'm leaning more towards the idea that Max Pax is kind of broken free from his constraints, from his shackles, and he's now unleashed in PvP. I look forward to it. I look forward to seeing more of Max Pax in Protoss vs. Protoss. Do look forward to it. As that led us into, into the finals. Hero took down Sheamus 2-1 and did fall to Beyond. Honestly, Hero versus Beyond was a very fun series. Went all the way to the ace match. Was very intense, very back and forth. Beyond made it to the finals, and there he played against MaxPax, where MaxPax was looking much more dominant. MaxPax was looking very comfortable. I would say, we've said this before, I would say that currently MaxPax's strongest matchup is PvT. I think that this is current strongest matchup. That is where he thrives. That is where he is at his best. I would say that PvP is now improving for MaxPax. That is true, but it's not quite at, is improving, of course, is still at a high level, but his PvT is typically what I look at and what I look to from the side of MaxPax. His PvZ, I would say, is his weakest matchup currently. MaxPax against players like Raynor, against players like Cheryl, is where he does struggle that much more, even against players like Dark, when Dark was active, or against players like Shin as well. But at the same time, we also don't really get to see a lot of MaxPax's PvZ, because there's barely any Zerg players that compete in these tournaments. So it's also hard for me to like fully gauge with full confidence and certainty like how good or how bad his PvZ is, because it's a bit of a rarer matchup. It's a rare matchup to cover. But regardless, takes down Australia, takes down Beyond, and MaxPax is going to be this week's champion for the Pegasus Cup. Congratulations. And again, I look forward to seeing more of MaxPax's PvP in the near future. That leads us into the Wardy TV European League 2025, which I believe has finally concluded. It was a very long tournament with a massive Swiss format group stage. The group stage was so daunting to watch, so daunting to look at. Last week we were going over the playoffs itself, and we do have, it looks like we have a bit of a forfeit, unfortunately. But Gabe took down Skillers 3-0, MaxPax took down Shameless 3-0, and I was looking forward to those matches. I was looking forward to Gabe and seeing how he would perform in these matches, but unfortunately, Gabe did forfeit. I hope everything's okay. I'm sure that something came up. It's possible that he was just unavailable, just because I think Gabe posted yesterday, like on the beach. Like, I think he's on vacation. I don't think he's near a PC right now. So unfortunately, maybe a vacation and a holiday was planned ahead of time, and maybe they weren't really expecting this tournament to, or Gabe wasn't expecting this tournament to have gone for this long, or for him to even be in the tournament at this stage, and unfortunately he just wasn't able to compete. So in the end, Gabe, he did forfeit against MaxPax, did forfeit against Showtime, but he's out there with the beaches. True, he is out there with the beaches enjoying himself, so shout out to Este Gabe. Scrolling down, we did have the lower bracket. We had Beyond, and Beyond took down Mana, took down Yang Yakov, took down Skillus. Showtime likewise took down Shameless, Harstem, and Nicorect. They faced off in the lower bracket semifinals. Showtime looking dominant there, 4-0 over Beyond. Apparently, this was never meant to be a best of 7, but because of Gabe's forfeit, they turned that into a best of 7, and Showtime looked even stronger. That's crazy. Which is why I want to say that Showtime may even look good against. I was going to say that Showtime, that gives me more confidence about his upcoming potential match against Bunny. But I also know that Bunny is a very different kind of player. Bunny is hyper aggressive compared to Beyond. Like, Beyond is a little more mid game oriented. Bunny is not. Bunny, we see him go for non-stop 2-base all-ins all the time. So Bunny is more aggressive than Beyond, so it's a bit of a different dynamic. I don't know if Showtime's showing against Beyond is too indicative of how he would potentially look against Bunny. But regardless, we'll get there eventually when it comes to the EWC tournaments. Meanwhile, for the grand finals, we had MaxPax versus Showtime. MaxPax takes down Showtime 4-1. Very impressive showing there. Unfortunately, I didn't see those games. I did not see those matches. But if MaxPax's recent PvP in those weeklies is indicative of anything, I would assume that MaxPax was able to catch Showtime off guard with more cheese, with more aggression, with more proxies, with more of an aggressive style, and 2 gate openers as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this marked the beginning of that. I would have to watch the games myself. Of course, I didn't get to see them, but I am very curious to see how this played out, because Showtime is typically does have a really strong showing against MaxPax. Like, Showtime, he's typically able to hold his own, but especially if MaxPax is now being a little bit less. If now he's being more unpredictable, if he's being less predictable, if he's being more chaotic and more aggressive, then I can definitely see MaxPax just sweeping that series. Which did occur. GG, well played. MaxPax comes out on top in the PvP, and that leads us into our final bit of news, our final big tournament. That leads us into the Wardy TV Summer Championship 25 qualifiers, which should conclude this week. First up, we have the first qualifier here where top four do qualify for the main event. This is a big tournament that's going to be happening over on Woody's channel, the Summer Championship. And here we had classic creator Shin and Beyond. We had a full list of Koreans qualifying for the event. Classic took down Lemon, creator took down Christiana, Shin took down Mana, and Beyond took down Nickrak. So we have our top four Koreans making it through. They still played out their matches, and Beyond did come out on top, but these are seeding matches. They were seeding matches. Top four did qualify. And hey, we got a Zerg. Hey, Shin, there he is. we were looking for him earlier with like, where's Shin, Pappy? There he is. Did qualify for the Summer Championship. That leads us into the second qualifier, where now we had some Europeans step in, as the typical active Koreans for the online tournaments did already make it through. Here we had Christiana. Christiana took down Lemon 2-1. Zaun took down Rebellion 2-1. Zaun qualified for the event. So did Christiana. Remember, top four did qualify. Shameless qualifies over Nickrat, and Art qualifies over Percival. In the end, Christiana did win the entire qualifier, takes down Zaun, takes down Shameless, but again, these were seeding matches, so there was a little bit less on the line here, but Christiana showcasing his prowess in PvP. And again, we get some nice European representation here, with Christiana, Shameless, and Art also joining the fray alongside Zaun. As we have the final qualifier, qualifier number 3, oh my god, we did have our top 4. Once again, top 4 qualifies. We had Hero. Hero did hear about the event. He showed up. He takes down Harsum to qualify for the event. Percival takes down Mana to qualify. Goblin takes down Triple. And Spirit takes down Lemon. Spirit takes down Lemon to qualify as well. And in the end, we had Hero, Percival, Goblin, and Spirit. Looks like for the qualifying match in the end, they off-race. Looks like Hero played Terran, Spirit played Zerg, and Spirit played Protoss. So, looks like they have some fun. As you mentioned, they're just seeding matches, so there was less importance kind of dictated to these matches, so they decided to have some fun in the finals and some fun towards the end, so really cool to see. But congratulations to Hero, Percival, Goblin, and Spirit. And that leads us into qualifier number 4. Fun fact, qualifier 4, I believe, is tonight. Yes, it is going to be later on tonight.
It's currently
as we were saying, it actually just began, so the bracket is underway. Max, he was actually not in any of the previous qualifiers, so Max, he's there. Max is going to be primed to qualify. Gumiho, Jesus, looks like for the final qualifier, looks like some players were notified. They're like, hey, big tournament's happening. You don't want to miss out. They're like, oh, God. These are the last second signups here. We got Cure, we got Bunny, we got Mana, Max, Ryung, Gumiho, Nightmare? It's been a while since we've seen Nightmare play. Nightmare, he has not competed in quite some time. He retired to compete in Deadlock, so Nightmare randomly showing up as well. I don't have any high expectations for Nightmare, but just really cool to see him. Really cool to see him signing up. I don't expect him to qualify, but you know, it'll be impressive if he does. So really cool to see Nightmare once again. And best of luck to all the competitors here for the final last chance qualifier. Once again, top 4 will make it through. Predictions. Predictions here would be Cure, Bunny, Max, and Gumiho. Pretty boring predictions, but we do have some big heavy hitters that are all spread out throughout the entire qualifier intentionally. So I could see some upsets. I could see Ryung upsetting. I could see Mana causing an upset. I could see Jumi causing an upset. There's some, yeah, true. Like Jumi, Mana, Ryung, Harstum, Nightmare could crazily pop off. Like there's definitely some upset potential there for sure. Best of luck to all the players, even Nickrat for sure. When it comes to the main events, do we have any announced invites? Let us have a look. It looks like we do not. But heading on over here to the Water TV Summer Championship, you can see the qualified players. We have a plethora of Protoss, as always. We have one Lone Zerg. And we have a couple of Terrans. So we have Classic, Creator, Art, Christiana, Shameless, Zaun, Goblin, and Hero for Protoss. For Terran, we have Beyond, Percival, and Spirit. And for Zerg, we have Shin. Now, we do have some available invites, and most likely, because typically the way that Wardy does this, because I'm sure he will notice, like, oh, there's a lot of Protoss, typically he will try to focus his invites to Zerg and Terran to try to balance things out. So I can see invites being given and handed out to people like Solar. I can see Solar, Rogue, maybe Clem, Cyril, and Raynor. A laser, a Lambert. He usually reaches out to Lambert for sure. Whether they accept the invite's yet to be determined. But I can definitely see Wardy reaching out to said Zerg and Terran players to try to round out the bracket and to balance things out, and to actually allow for some Terran and Zerg in the later portions of the tournament as well. So that's kind of what we expect. Is what we expect from these invites, but of course it depends on who is available, who accepts the invites, and who is chosen, and that'll most likely be towards the end of the week. Chat Euthermal, if you're talking about invites, I doubt it, just because Euthermal's focusing on his circuit at the moment. The circuit is going to be a long event, so I don't think he'd have the time to compete in this. If you remember, he also declined his invite to the StarCraft Evolution League because of his tournament as well, so I don't think this provides him too much time, but it's possible. It's possible. But yeah, for the most part, I'm leaning more towards the Zerg players, towards like Clem. Who else is missing here that I can see invited? I was gonna say Gabe, but Gabe is on vacation at the moment, so maybe Gabe wouldn't accept the invite. So we'll see. We'll see who he does reach out to. Otherwise, with that, that is something to look forward to, of course, when it comes to the World TV Summer Championship. Before I get ahead of myself, as a reminder, the Euthermal 2v2 circuit starts up tomorrow in less than 24 hours. Actually, now would be the time to go over that event as well, as a bit of a reminder, as a bit of a refresher here. So when it comes to the tournament, we have our confirmed players. We have Goblin, MaxPax, Shameless, Showtime, Skillless, and Trigger. We have Milky Cow, Nickrack, Spirit, and Euthermal. We have, of course, Jumi, a Laser, GG Machine, Lambo, Cyril, Wayne, Zugilang, and Young Yakov. We have our top 18 players. We have our top 18 players. 16 from the standings and 2 from the last chance qualifier, all competing in a $15,000 USD prize pool. I say that currently it's 15K, but the match arena is open and it most likely is going to grow. So we can see this event growing even larger. This event is already the biggest 2v2 event in the history of StarCraft 2, and it only is going to get bigger.
I have a note. The prize pool will not get bigger than 15K. Keep that in mind. That
there you go.
The prize pool is locked to 15K. However, if the match arena reaches the next stretch goal, which is I think 17K, something around that, then the players who also stream their POV will be rewarded for streaming it. And then if the match arena reaches 20K, the stretch goal, that secures the next season of the event.
There you go. There you go. So we do have stretch goals, and I really appreciate that it's not all going towards the overall prize pool. I think it's smarter. I think if you remember, Pig did this for the Pig Fest. Pig did this for Pig Fest as well, where if you do exceed a certain amount, then it just goes towards the next tournament. It goes towards the next tournament. That is smarter. It does mean that there's a little bit more longevity to the event. It means that there's more security when it comes to future tournaments as well, to keep the league going for months and years to come. Let's go, baby, let's go. But yes, I should emphasize as well, like there is going to be that streamer prize pool, that streamer award where players are going to be incentivized to stream their POVs to earn some extra prize money. We just got, I guess, an update here, as you can see on the Wikipedia page. Clem, unfortunately, did decline his invite. I say decline his invite. He didn't get invited. He competed. He earned his spot, of course, playing in so many 2v2 tournaments. I would say that Clem and Trigger are the second best 2v2 team in the world, second only to Spirit and MaxPax. Like Clem and Trigger, they're very strong players in their own right. Unfortunately, it looks like Clem is going to be forfeiting this spot. It's possible that he's just taking some time off after EWC, right? Maybe like he wants to commit, but maybe after Esports World Cup, he's like, yo, I just want to take a break. Hey, that coincides with the off-race show match that he had against Raynor, right? He was off-racing. He was not playing his main race. So it's possible that Clem might just be decompressing and just taking some time to himself, which might also mean that he might decline an invite to Wardy's tournament. If Wardy does invite him for the Summer Championship, there's a chance he might turn it down if he's taking some time off. So we'll see. Regardless, Nickrack does replace Clem, and the format, as again, this starts in 1 day and 3 hours time. The group stage, I should say, the format is round robin in more ways than one. Round robin opponents, round robin teammates as well. Again, this is the most interesting thing about the format is that despite the fact that you qualified with a certain teammate, you're not necessarily playing with that teammate in the tournament. You might be able to in the playoffs, but in the group stage, no shot. In the group stage, you are split off from your own teammate as you are split into separate groups, and you're playing with everyone else. So you can see here in round 1, we have Euthermal and Jumi teaming up against Skillus and Wayne. We have Max, Pax, and Cyril teaming up against Trigger and GG Machine. Then we have Euthermal and Milky Cow, Cyril and Skillus, Max, Pax, and GG Machine, Trigger and Jumi. You just swap. You just switch it up. You swap on over. You find you have another teammate round after round after round after round. It's all about not just how you play 2v2, but also how well you play with other races, with other players, how you play on the fly. We emphasize this is why the warm-up cups were so important, because they allowed you some time to play with someone that's not your typical teammate, to reach out and play with someone else, to practice, to improve, and to, test your skill against that. That's how we had Laser and Lambo, for example. They're going to be a pairing in round 6, and they already played together previously as well. Gives them some time to adjust, gives them some time to reach out and to start practicing those other matchups. Every matchup. Crazy, very crazy. So again, a really unique format. Will it be good? Will it just lead to disaster? We're going to find out. Hey, if it's a disaster, that makes for good content anyway. So it's going to be a great time nonetheless. And again, we're going to be working behind the scenes on the event as well. Myself, Kuro, and many others to admin, to organize, to make sure everything runs as smoothly as possible in the group stage and coming into playoffs as well. GG, well played. Whew. So again, a really fun format, fun tournament, and I definitely look forward to, I hope that if you want to support the tournament, Matcherino, there is that Matcherino link available, and I'm sure it's going to be posted in the chat as well. There we go. So we do recommend supporting the event, as they've already reached 17k on that Matcherino, and we're on the way to reach 20k as well, to secure another event. And bearing in mind, the next tournament most likely will be taking place after the TLMC, right? Team Liquid Map contest for team games, for team maps, is right around the corner. We're almost up to voting for that event. So most likely the ladder map pool for team games is soon to be revamped just in time for the next 2v2 circuit, assuming, of course, that we reach that goal. And I want to believe we will. I know that Euthermal, he has a lot of incentive, a lot of motivation to keep this going. He's been having a very fun, a very good time with the 2v2 circuit, with 2v2 in general, and he's kind of pioneering this as well. The push towards team games and competitive and professional team games. So do look forward to it. Also, meanwhile, shout out to Tomahawk 006. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tomahawk, for the Twitch Prime. God, thank you so much. We do appreciate the support. Do appreciate it so much, as that is going to be us wrapping up. We do have other events on the horizon here on the CranKy Ducklings. Tomorrow we're going to be casting the Sunny Lake Cup. We also have the RSL. The RSL qualifiers are going to be over the weekend. It's going to be a very intense time, and I hope I'm able to actually... We'll see if we can cover it. Just the weekend is going to be quite busy here. We'll do our best. Likewise, we have the SCC, the Sparkling Tuna Cup. We have the Water TV Monday as well. We have the RSL proper on the horizon, and much more content to come. So, GG, well played. Do look forward to all the upcoming events. Likewise, speaking of the upcoming events, sign up list, sign up list in the chat. We do have a list available here to sign up for all these tournaments. Tomorrow is going to be we didn't even get to talk about it. Tomorrow is going to be the very first Little League Cup, a weekly Little League Cup. They've been running all these show matches, non-stop show matches, with unique and quirky formats, but they are now stepping in as a weekly tournament. Saber, of course, is going to be casting that in Chinese, and we are going to be casting that in English. We're going to be there all over Little League Cup. So do look forward to it. We also have another Roddy Cup, another Roddy Random Cup as well. That's also going to be in a couple of days, and many others. So again, exclamation mark sign up list for that.
Fun fact, apparently Roddy's All Random Cup will also have like a playoffs. Apparently there are like 4 cups and where you can collect points, and then you will be invited to the playoffs.
There you go. So we have like a big random circuit. Shout out to Pi. I think Pi is adminning all of that, so shout out to Pi as well for putting in a lot of work to make sure that everything runs as smoothly as possible over for Wardy's events. Likewise, if you want to support us any further, hey, you can subscribe on Twitch, true, or you can also support us on Patreon. Our Patreon specifically is designed to fund our tournaments. It's designed to fund the Sparkling Tunic Cup, Sea Duckling Open, and Masters 1 Open, our amateur tournaments, and our open tournaments as well, all funded via Patreon. If you want to help us boost the prize pool for these tournaments, then Patreon is the place to be. As we are slowly growing our tournaments, our next goal is to boost the prize pool of the Tunic Cup even further, and then the goal after that would be to finally start paying admins and paying casters. Currently, 100% of the prize money goes towards the players, goes towards the prize pool. After that, then we can start earning something from our Patreon as well. So you can help us, support us via Patreon. Otherwise, thank you. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And we'll be back next week for our next podcast, or we'll be back tomorrow with the Sunny Lake Cup. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Ciao. Bye. Oh, also, if you wanna follow us, YouTube, we do stream on YouTube. VODs are available on YouTube as well on a daily basis. And of course, a big shout out to Kuro for handling the production side of things for this broadcast. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Ciao, papi, ciao. See you next time.